we never thought in a million years we'd get a chance to do a radio show the way we have. And if God gives it back to us, we'll be as faithful as we could be and have been to come on each and every week and remind you of 3 truths that if you hear them and you believe them and you take them in as core beliefs of your life, they will guide you to a life that is full of so much faith and so much hope, so much love, so much joy, so much purpose. And those truths are this: God is for you. He is not against you. He is near you, not far away. And God has created you on purpose and for a purpose.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Mic. This is your spiritual deep dive conversation of Radio Theology. And now here are your hosts, Pastor Daron Earlywine, Ryan Allward, and Lisa Graft.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. It's time for another episode of Behind the Mic. And guys, we are deep. This is deep behind the mic. I feel like this is like CIA, like FBI behind the mic situation. Yes. And I'll explain to you why. Hey, it is Behind the Mic, your deep dive episode of Radio Theology, your weekly dose of faith, hope, love, and music. Pastor Daron Earlywine here with Lisa Graft and Ryan Allward. And guys, this is a big episode. It's I would say it's a sad episode. I would say it could be a hopeful episode. I would say we could probably fill in a ton of adjectives of what episode this is. But I can say this will be the last episode of this time for a short, possibly long, hard to say period of time. How cryptic and random is that description?
I was going to say, could you be any more cryptic? We're already talking from our bunkers in our homes.
That was incredibly clearly vague.
Okay. All right. I'll get a little more clear. Here's the deal, guys. First and foremost, we just want to say that I'll speak for the 3 of us right now and say that the past 3.5 years have been some of the most fun and most fulfilling years for us to create content on ZPL here in Indianapolis and through our podcast channel. And it's meant the world to us that you've downloaded, that you've tuned in, that you've followed us, that you've responded, you've communicated, and the opportunity we have to remind you every single week that God's for you, not against you, that He's near you, not far from you, and that He has created you on purpose and for a purpose. It's been amazing, and we love it. As you know, because you're experiencing this, if you live on Earth, I don't think we have any downloads, guys, yet from other planets. So I think I'm safe to say, if you're listening right now, you are also quarantined. We're dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. And as a part of it, we were informed just recently that Radio Theology would be moved to a furloughed status for the next 90 days, which means we won't be recording a show for the next 90 days. And so we've made a team decision that we're going to just push pause for the next 90 days. And that has caused a ton of different emotions in us. And so what we want to do today is kind of walk through that process with you of where we've been processing this decision, where we're at right now. And then I think most importantly, we want to tell you how to stay connected to us individually for the next 90 days because we've loved being a part of your life. We've loved being able to help be, in some ways, a guide to bring you to greater faith, hope, and love in your life. And we don't want to borrow the words of Jesus, guys, we're going away, but we will not leave you as orphans. We are going to send the power of the Trinity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Playing the role of the Father will be me, Daron Earlywine. The Son will be Ryan Allward, and Lisa Graft will be the Holy Spirit. But it's an unusual time. We're trying to make the best of it and figure out how God is leading us in it. And we feel confident that we're doing that. And I guess, guys, it's unique for us because it has to do with our radio show. But honestly, I think that's where everybody that's listening is at. They may not have been furloughed. Maybe they have. Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe they have a job, but they can't go to work. This is uncertain, and I think we're in some ways all in the same boat in different contexts.
Yeah, we are. I just realized if I'm Jesus, I would prefer not to be crucified, by the way.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Dang it.
Oh,
Yeah, you're right,
gosh.
though. I mean, we everybody's in the same boat. This is affecting everyone in many different ways. And I was just having a call with a friend earlier today where he's like, I feel bad kind of admitting that our family is okay. And, like, actually it's been kind of nice enjoying, like, meals together. And, like, he's like, I feel kind of bad saying that, like, I've still got a job, but he's like, but I also know that we've got friends who are directly impacted by this, by someone in their family who's struggling. And so he's like, it's this weird sense of emotional, like, we're okay. Other people we know aren't. Our heart is, like, breaking for them, and we're helping them every way we can. But it's this really interesting in-between season, because who knows what states will roll out an easing of the quarantine and when and how that will be received. And I don't know, it's going to be really, really interesting when all of us have poked our heads back out from our underground burrows and we're all back to quote unquote normal. It's going to be interesting. How do you guys feel about it?
I'm all over the board emotionally, as per the usual. But I think this season for me has been, and I hope for most people, it's as painful as it's been. I'm praying that God's doing the same things in others as he's doing in me, which is basically stripping down all of the things that I thought formed my identity and I used, not necessarily in bad ways, but I just held a lot higher than maybe I should have been. Part of that has been some busyness. Part of it is some relationships and things like that. And so in this season of being faced with, okay, this is who you are. This is the life you've built and have been building. And it's good, but let's take a step back and see, like, where are you actually going? What's actually going on, and what are you hiding behind? What are you afraid of? Who are you really? So then when you come out of hiding, or not hiding necessarily, but when you come out of, back into the real world, quote unquote, who are you going to be? The best version of yourself, a more scared version. There's lots of options. I know that people are kind of weighing, and lots of it depends on emotions sometimes. And so that's one thing I'm learning, is that in this time, I'm just discovering all these different things.
Yeah, I really like the way you've put that, Lisa. And I think for everybody, it's obviously the process is different, because I love that idea that you're talking about of coming out of hiding. There's an image there where we have been, in a lot of ways, like we're hiding from the virus, right, in our homes. And pretty soon, hopefully soon, we start to reemerge from that. But I know that everybody that I've talked to, there has been this, I don't know how we want to say it, a stripping down, or a coming to terms with, like, what am I really about? Because, I mean, I've seen it, even in simple ways with my 15-year-old, where he's going on bike rides and he's going fishing with buddies and social distancing, but, like, stuff he never did before because he was busy playing baseball or football, whatever. And, like, him saying, man, Dad, I'm more than an athlete. You know what? I'm finding that a game is not the only thing. Like, he's learning it in that way. But I think for us, like you said, Lisa, it's like, I know for me, I've built, over the past 3 years, I've built a lot of my expectations and identity around what we've done with Radio Theology, and what I've wanted it to be, and what I've wanted to be in it. And I'm talking to other people who, you know what I mean, their life was going to work at their job and being a high achiever. And then now it's like, okay, what am I now? What am I actually? And I think this comes back to, I mean, what we say all the time here on Radio Theology, right, is that these moments test our actual core beliefs. Do I actually think that God is near me, not far away? Do I actually believe that God is for me? Even when I'm like, no, God, this wasn't on the menu. I'm never ordering this off the menu, but of life. But I'm still going to have faith that in the midst of it, that you're still for me, and that even if right now what it seems like is being produced is not the kind of purpose that I want, I'm realizing that you have created me on purpose and for purpose. And a part of that for me, I've just been, I'm I'm trying to crank out another short ebook just as a place of encouragement for people. And so I'm writing right now our next statement here that we've always said on Radio Theology is that God is for you, not against you. And what I'm realizing is that so much of our purpose of life is so much less about what we do, and it's so much more primal about who we are in relationally and as far as love. Like that is our core purpose, is that we would be, that we love the Lord our God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and we love our neighbor as ourselves. So to love and to be loved, that when we say that God has created us on purpose and for purpose, before we talk about what we do, it comes back to that understanding of do we know how to love and be loved? And I think that may be some of what God is stripping us down to, of like, hey, you haven't been able to go to work in the same way for 6 weeks. Who knows when you get back to it? Who knows how your job stuff is going to change afterwards? But what is actually the driving purpose of your life? And I'll be honest, I don't usually like to look that deeply at things like that. And I sure as heck don't like it when I find an answer that I'm not real pleased with.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, too, part of it has been relationally, just within my home. It's been challenging. And I know I'm not alone in saying that. Like, my husband and I have never, ever spent this much time together, ever. And so it has just brought out, and like, same with my kids. I've never spent this much time with my kids. I'm a working mom. My kids were in full-time care. And so that has brought out all of these relational dynamics that have kind of shown a light into some things that we need to change. And for me, it's been scary because I had to really start being honest with myself and with my family about, okay, this is what I need. This is what I need. And that's really, I might cry through this whole episode, you guys. It's such hard work to recognize that, to say that out loud. And then it's really vulnerable to ask that, to say that, and put yourself out there in that way, even to your spouse, and I've done that with some friends distanced as well, but it's been so good to see. And I've been doing that with God, right? So this is what I need. I know you're here. Show up for me, and allowing people to show up for me has been the most rewarding thing that I hope I'm brave enough to allow to continue.
Well, it makes me think, Lisa, about, we do talk, a decent amount about spiritual DNA and our online course that helps people discover who they're born to be. And we're in the process of adding the Enneagram to spiritual DNA. It's not currently in there, but you're an Enneagram 2. And We've talked a lot about this. Is one of the greatest, challenges to an Enneagram 2 is like putting their needs out to be met, because you gain so much identity of meeting others' needs, and you're the supportive helper. Like that's a greatest strength for you, but hidden in the shadow of that greatest strength is not asking for or valuing your own needs. And it's just like that is so freaking hard, but it's like, what is God leading you to? He's leading you to a place where you can love and be loved, in a more healthy and robust way. But that doesn't make it feel any better, right?
No, it doesn't. But it's been good to see I'm reaping the rewards of that already. And I'm allowing other people who do love me the opportunity to show up, to meet those needs. And otherwise, I'm robbing them of that experience. And so that's, I think, been one of the most profound gifts of this season that I am going to hopefully be brave enough to hold on to.
I like that. I just about reset this conversation thinking we were on the air, but we're not. We're just doing behind the mic. I just about came in with, you're listening to Radio Theology, your weekly dose of faith, hope, love, and music. Pastor Daron here with Ryan and Lisa, and talking about where we are in this quarantine and what we're learning in it. And we are about to take a 90-day break from doing Radio Theology on ZPL. We didn't choose it, but we will accept it. And in this time, it's interesting, Lisa, and I think we probably already have, but we can invite, our friends into the conversation. Is that it's interesting to me, some of the things that I think has influenced, I know, my decision of what we want to do for the next 90 days is trying to lean into this word that I feel like God gave me for the year, and for you, right? I mean, your word was listen. My word, was worthy. And it's interesting to see how God is we feel like he said, hey, this is what we're going to focus on in 2020. We had no idea that a global pandemic was going to be a part of that process. But some of the work that God's been doing in my life through this, and I think I can just see the places in your life right now where, you know what I mean, the listening part is very real. And, I guess that, not even I guess, that does bring me so much comfort, because it's like to know that when God speaks to us and he guides and directs us with these gentle nudges, he's not just saying, hey, here's how I'm going to work through all the awesome stuff this year. So look for me when things are perfect. It's like, no, this is what we're going to do. And even in the midst of struggle, in the midst of unknowns, like, this is where I'm going to do my work. And, it makes me think of, when Paul talks about, I want to say maybe it's in one of the Corinthians, where he talks about that he would boast, that the whole thorn in the flesh thing, right? That he even boasts in his weaknesses, because, where he is weak, that's where God's power shows up, even greater. And so looking at some of these things and realizing these aren't things we need to be ashamed of or run from when we're realizing that we're places that God's growing us, but to be able to be grateful that it's like, yeah, I'm still weak, but man, is he faithful to show up in great ways and work this towards the long process of strength.
Well, and I think that just goes back to how much he is for us and near to us, but that just rings so true to me, that he is so for us. Not only is he with us, he's cheering us on. And like you said, for me, it's been lots of gentle nudges. And even when I can't say, okay, yep, I can do that, he circles back and tries again. And doesn't let me off the hook, but doesn't make me feel bad about it. And so that's my favorite way that he's for me and for all of us, is that it's just this gentle, loving relationship.
Yeah. And Ryan, I think it's interesting because the cool part about I think our connection with Christ and where our lives are is that we're all unique. We all process things differently, and we all have different journeys in our life. And I think, like you were saying, you've got some friends that this is hitting them a lot harder than it is you. And even the three of us are processing through this. We're walking through the same exact thing with shared responsibilities and stuff. But this process is even affecting us differently. And I love the fact that so often I think people think that the connection to Jesus is a standardized process, that it's all the same for everyone. But I love that he can meet us individually in that process, and we don't have to feel. I think one of the things I fought through some of this is same thing. I've got my job, God's opened up opportunities to still do mostly what I do during this. Like, I've enjoyed the time, with my family. I like afternoon walks with my dog now. These little things, and to not feel bad about enjoying some of it, but at the same time not feeling. There's been times that any suffering or stress that I've had, not looking at and being like, well, at least I'm not a Syrian refugee during this time. You know what I mean? Not to take away from the struggle and the challenge that you may have, because somebody else may have it worse, but just being able to embrace the place that God has you and say, okay, where do you have me right now, and how am I responding?
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly had highlighted things that I've known about myself that I'm really proud of, and then things I've known about myself that I see that and I'm like, ew, that can't be me. Oh, wait, it is. Yeah, and it's interesting, man. Every day is different. Every hour is different. I don't know. It's just been so interesting to see how in our dynamic and our family, this has brought us together in so many ways, and in other ways it's caused a lot of friction. But I do see that the main thing, the knee-jerk reaction that I think my wife Lauren and I have just established in our own rhythm for our own family, is the rhythm tends to be, okay, we need to just stop and pray. This morning we had a family prayer because yesterday was not a good day overall. We were all just wiped. We were all, and the thing is, we weren't really doing anything. It wasn't like we were wiped from activity. I think we were just spent from 6 weeks of this, this pressure cooker, whatever analogy you want to use, but we all just melted down in different ways and at different times. And this morning we just had this commitment, this conviction to say, all right, today's going to be better than yesterday. Kids, this is what we promise. This is what you can expect from us today. We're asking for more patience of one another. Like you're, again, trying to explain it to a 5 and a 3-year-old who all they want to do is watch the latest thing on Disney Plus. We rallied in the dining room. We just had a quick family prayer, and it was just like, I don't want to give that up when this goes back into the next chapter. Not forgetting to pause and celebrate and ask help and confess things and encourage one another in certain ways. Not giving that up. And in many ways, it's highlighted, hey, you weren't doing this often. Now you're feeling the need to. When you don't feel the need to, still do it.
Yeah, dude. I love that. And I think I want to rip off one of my wife's, on Mother's Day, my wife and I are going to get a chance to preach together at Mercy Road here in Indy. And she's basically put the whole sermon together, which I love. And I'll just be I'll be like the added ingredient because she's killing it. But one of the things that she brought up that I just loved, we were working on it this morning, is her just talking about the fact that how much of a gift it is actually to lead through our weakness. And it made me think of being, like you said, Ryan, sitting down and being like, hey, mom and dad need to be more patient. And Julie and I have had moments during this quarantine where I think we've led phenomenally in our home. And we definitely have had other moments where you're like, maybe a D- in leadership of the family, this day. And the scripture that popped out to me that we're going to build some of the sermon on for Mother's Day is that when Jesus talks about, in the parable of the talents, when he comes back and he rewards the servants that have done well, he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And what we noticed in there is what he doesn't say is, "Perfectly done, my good and faithful servant." He says, "Well done." And I think too often, God is looking for perfect, and it seems that he's just looking for well done. Like, you did that well. Did I do it perfect? No, but you did it well. And to be able to come to the place of saying, even in my weakness, like, it's okay to embrace that we're going to have days where it's an absolute cluster, right? And it's like, this was really poorly done. I am not a perfect dad. I'm not a perfect husband. I'm not a perfect friend. I'm not a perfect follower of Jesus. And Jesus goes, yeah, totally. I wasn't expecting perfection. Like, I took care of that, right, with my life in the cross. So what I need you to do is embrace your weakness and just be faithful. Like, so he says, well done, good and faithful. So a well done faithfulness is what he's looking for. I think we beat ourselves up for a perfect performance, and those are two vastly different things. And I think this quarantine for everyone has given us different ways to look and experience that. And I hope that encourages you this morning, this afternoon, tonight, whenever you listen to this.
Yeah. Well, and Ryan, I think, and I could brag on both of you guys about how I've seen you both do that in this quarantine. Oh my gosh, I can't stop crying, you guys. I'm even saying something good now. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh boy. So Ryan, you have taken exactly what your gifts to the world are, right? And you said, I think I could do more of that. I could do more of that. Does that bring you hope? Is that fun for you? It's fun for me. I'm alive when I'm doing it. Right? Like, that's what you're doing. That's exactly like what you're leaning into. And yeah, you obviously, you get tips from that, and you get more patrons, and you're building this community, which is amazing and well deserved. But that's I have to believe that God's going, yeah, well done. Well done. You're using exactly what I gave you, and you're giving it to people, and that's what they need.
Yeah, it's thank you, Lisa. It has been really interesting to see not beating myself up for not maximizing the technology and time that I had before this happened. But it's been really interesting to see what I've been able to do, how that's impacted people on the other end of that, like doing virtual live shows and connecting and growing that my community of patrons around the world, of people who support my music. I've gotten some really interesting and impactful and meaningful feedback from people who, not about the show, it's more about what the show has meant. I've had people who are isolated and single and dealing with new mental health diagnoses, and they're scared. And that a song that I wrote, however many years ago, is now impacting them. It's like, that's what it's about for me. Like, it's not the community growing. I want the community to grow, obviously. Yeah. Because I want to connect more people, and I want to connect with more people, and I want to be able to create more things that I feel like God has totally wired me to do. There was this really interesting curveball that I got. I won't go too deeply into it, but it cut to like my core identity from someone who's like approval I really, really value. This was maybe a week and a half ago, that I just did not get at all. As a matter of fact, I got the exact opposite from what I was hoping that I would get from this person. And it really rocked me, and it really like brought out some nasty in me that I didn't it felt great to vent for like the 10 seconds that I vented it alone in my closet, under my breath, so I wouldn't wake up Lauren. It felt great to vent it in those 10 seconds. But then like the next 3 days, I was just in a funk. Like, I was just in this, am I even doing with my life what I should be doing? Like, what even am I doing? Like, all these things of just doubt and self-criticism, and maybe they are right. And also that at the same time, like, where do they get off saying what they said? Like, this whole meatball of just junk. And then one of my patrons, who's a nurse on the front lines of COVID down in Louisiana, in one of our live streams, she was like, you were made to be an artist. And it just hit me. I was like, wow, this one person's opinion, and why do I hold so much stock in their opinion? That's kind of an interesting question that God's been sharing with me. But like, this new friend who supports my music and is giving so much of her life so other people can literally survive, she gives me a sentence in a live stream comment thread that just turns the day around. She's like, hey, don't forget who you are. You're a son of the living God, and he's created you the way he's created you, and you've got platforms and talents that you're using for his glory, and he's going to bless that. And it's like, just live in that. Just stay in that lane, and don't. What was so interesting was the naysayer was someone so incredibly close to me that it was just like, that's what rocked me and confused me so much. It's like, wow, I need to reevaluate a lot in this relationship. And so then, of course, my wife is like, well, why don't you give that person a call? And I'm like, why don't I just forget that person? Why don't I just like barrel through the Enneagram 3-ness and just triple down of just like, well, you don't think I should do this? Well, I'm going to prove you the most wrong ever. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to work harder and exhaust myself more. I'll be the most exhausted ever.
That'll show him.
That'll show you. But it was just, God has been revealing so much. It's funny. He's been revealing a lot about me, but he's just been revealing a lot more about himself that I think was already there. It was just, I wasn't in tune with it. And like, he's been it's not like he's going to draw even nearer. He's like the most near he could possibly be. It's like, what other signal do you guys need? I've literally put on flesh, lived a life you should have lived, died the death you should have died, and then conquered it all, and then still come into these precious, hard moments with you. It's like, what else do you need? And I think that's kind of, for me, that's sort of this question of like, wow, why is the craving there? And I think it's there because he's put it there. He's like, apart from me, you are nothing, resonates so much with me in the I am the vine and you are the branches. He's like, listen, guys, you can try to make your own fruit and you might succeed. You might have like 3 beautiful little tiny grapes, and that's great. But without me, you're nothing. And like the parable goes on where he's like, the useless branches are gathered into a fire and burned because they're useless. It's like, I don't want you to be useless. I want you to be used for so much. And like, I want to create a vineyard in your life, not just, one little bottle of wine that you can go, wow, this was really great.
Yeah.
And so he's just been teaching me so much about him, but it's I think the quarantine has been a classroom example, so to speak, of what he's been teaching me. But it's just been a great mirror, man. It's been a great mirror, and he's held it up lovingly. He hasn't held it up beating me over the head with it. And so I don't know what'll be different. I don't know what'll be different when this all quote unquote goes back to normal. I think it's going to be a new normal personally, but I do know that he's still good and he still wants the best for his kids.
I agree, dude. And I think the thing is for us as a team and for you as our listening audience is, out of our control, we're not doing a show that we've loved. Radio Theology won't be recorded for the next 90 days. And after that, we hope it comes back. We have no guarantee it will. We don't know what the future holds. But the thing is, like, even Ryan, as you're talking, as I think about, at least like you were saying, like he's done well at stepping further into becoming who he was born to be. And I think about like, and Ryan, like you said, it wasn't like God wasn't there. It's just in a lot of ways, we were all distracted. And I think everybody has a different level of distraction and, a different level of hiding, a different level of ignoring, like, and the longer this goes, it's like it just keeps getting deeper and deeper to try to figure it out. And as far as me trying to step into like, this place of worthiness, it's like interesting is that I love what we do with Radio Theology. I love to be able to go and take the gospel of Jesus Christ and the truth that we say each week into the spaces and places of everyday life and sow seeds for people to know that God is there for them. And I would do that probably to the day I die. And what was interesting to me yesterday was through this quarantine and through some random stuff on Facebook, I've gotten reconnected with some ministry friends that I've known for 15 years. And I was on a call yesterday where it was no agenda. The agenda just was, what could God be inviting us into as far as what the church could look like and what the kingdom of God could look like in the next season here if we can't go back to church. Like dreaming about global, worldwide church-type planting networks that are outside the norm of the way we see church now. And I love to think that way, and God's created me to be an apostolic visionary in the kingdom. And when it was just interesting to me that, like, is God saying to me, like, hey, this is a year you need to step into your worthiness, and you've been doing some great work, and I'm proud of you, son. But like, we're going to take 90 days, and you're going to start thinking of things you haven't thought about for a long time because you've just been distracted. And like, I want that future that he's creating, and I can trust him in that process, which is exciting. And I think the interesting thing is I want to give people an opportunity to stay connected to us over this next 90 days. And I think the cool part is even for all of us, it's like, Lisa, for you, over the past 3 years, it's been such a cool process. I mean, this starts with you telling God your need. God, I have a need to make an impact in women's lives again, and I love doing that and through radio. So you communicated a need to your loving Heavenly Father, and it doesn't always work like this, but literally 5 minutes after the prayer, right, the phone rings, and you're on Radio Theology within a month, and if you've been a faithful listener to Radio Theology, you've seen the metamorphosis of Lisa's life stepping into the ministry platform that God's given her with I Am Mother of the Year, and I just think it's so cool, Lisa. The listeners don't know this, but it's like, since we've been processing the fact that we're probably going to be furloughed for 90 days, like God has opened up 8 weeks of success, like successive 8 weeks of speaking to women across the country through virtual means. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
And not that you couldn't do, both. And it's not like that I couldn't do both, talking about global, visions of ministry and do the radio show. But it's just intriguing that it's like, is God saying, hey, trust me in this one. We've got a 90-day process to kind of, as Bono would say, to dream it up again, and we'll see where we are at the end of that 90 days. But let's bring things to a little bit of a close. We're past what we regularly do on our podcast, but this is the last one for a while, so hopefully you'll excuse us. But here's what I want to do: is I know there's folks here that have come to Radio Theology because you've loved us as a team, but there's some people that you come because there's one of us that you connect with and you'd love to stay connected with. And so we're going to continue to put some stuff out there through our social media channel, just so you know it doesn't totally go away. There may be some shifts in that focus. You're going to see more stuff about spiritual DNA and some of the things that I'm putting out on there. There's not going to be a huge change over the next 90 days. But guys, let's just pave the road. How can they stay connected to us individually as we take a 90-day break from being the unit? And Lisa, we'll go ladies first. We'll let you start.
I, like you said, have been building this movement, I Am Mother of the Year, and the heart behind it is to connect moms to community. And through the growth of that and through the growth of myself, I have really started to come alive when I'm helping walk beside women. Oh my gosh. Walk beside women to help them discover their true identity and stop believing the lies that they believe and replace them with the truth about who they are. And so, like, nothing brings me more joy than that. Nothing hurts more than that to walk through. And that's why it's this beautifully painful process of, like, I'm living this, but not for nothing. I'm living this process. God's bringing me through this wilderness so that I can gather as many women as I can and coach them along the way, tell them it's going to be okay, and give them some practical steps to do that. And so I do that every week through writing, and I think I'm going to start some videos and things like that too. Like you said, I'm speaking on a bunch of webinars, and I've got all of these things. So it's at IamMotherOfTheYear.com and on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Mother of the Year.
So go check it out. Lisa will be even more active than she has been on that. Like she's got the webinars coming up. You can stay connected. And the cool part is Lisa's already got thousands of moms that you may find your next best friend on that site, or you just may find that one mom that has a word of encouragement that you need to make it through today. And so God has created us for community, and that's an amazing way to find it. So IamMotherOfTheYear.com. Go check it out. That's the way you can stay best connected to Lisa during this time. Ryan, what about you, bub?
Yeah, you can check out everything I'm doing musically at RyanSongs.com, and there you can learn a little bit more about that Patreon community that you heard us talking about earlier. There's, I think, as of today, 133 fans of my music all over the world who support my music and help me to make more of it, to grow the community even more, to make more music, to grow the community even more. There at RyanSongs.com, and it's Ryan Songs on Twitter and Instagram as well. Would love for you to discover what I'm putting out.
Absolutely, Ryan. And the thing that I love about Ryan, what you're doing is is your dedication to consistency with it that I've always been, I've really respected over the past couple of years. And this that you've said, I'm going to put a song a month, you're dedicated to it, and you don't, being a musician myself, a drummer, and being around artistic people, for the past, my whole life, there's a lot of times artistic people are like, I'm going to create when I'm inspired, or I'm going to create when whenever I feel like it. And one of the things that I've been so impressed by you, man, is that you've created when you haven't felt like it. You've created consistently, and God's honoring that. And I know, you're inspiring and bringing hope and joy to so many people, and you will continue to do so. So stay connected to Ryan there at RyanSongs.com. For me, over the next 90 days, you can follow. I'm about to, hopefully in the next week or two, we'll be relaunching my website, DaronEarlywine.com. And I'm going to begin creating some new resources for you that will just continue to remind you to become who God's created you to be. And so much of what the vision and values of what we've brought you here on Radio Theology, we'll just be expanding upon that. I'm going to start releasing a video each week of what's going to be called the Spiritual DNA Zoom sessions. And so we'll be interviewing people that have gone through Spiritual DNA and talking about their results and how God has continued to guide them and direct them. I think you're going to be inspired by those episodes. And I'll be releasing a lot more video content as well, launching a YouTube channel here in the next probably 2 weeks, and would love for you to be a part of that. Hopefully in the next month, I'm going to release the next ebook, which will be God is For You, Not Against You. And I'm writing that right now, and I'm getting pretty stoked about some of the stuff that God's given me to write. And so all that information will be at DaronEarlywine.com. And then obviously social media, just search Daron Earlywine, and I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. But that'll be the way to stay connected to us for the next 90 days. We'd love to hear from you, whether it be through Instagram or Facebook. And we'll bring an update. Maybe we'll jump in and at the... what's half of 90? 45? Wow, that's impressive. Maybe at the 45-day mark, we'll jump back on and give you a halfway update. And I know some of you listen to us because you listen to the radio show on ZPL each week when it's on the air. But I know that many of you connect with us here through the podcast, and so we'll be able to stay connected and bring you an update as that progresses. But yeah, guys, I don't think there's a scripted way to end this one. Like I said from the beginning, we never thought in a million years we'd get a chance to do a radio show the way we have. And if God gives it back to us, we'll be as faithful as we could be and have been to come on each and every week and remind you of three truths that if you hear them and you believe them and you take them in as core beliefs of your life, they will guide you to a life that is full of so much faith and so much hope, so much love, so much joy, so much purpose. And those truths are this: God is for you. He is not against you. He is near you, not far away. And God has created you on purpose and for a purpose. And we love you. Every moment we spent with you has been an absolute joy. So stay connected with us. With Lisa, I'm motheroftheyear.com. Ryan, ryansongs.com. And for me, Pastor Daron Earlywine, it will be at DaronEarlywine.com. Have an amazing day. God bless you. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Mic, the spiritual deep dive conversation of Radio Theology. If you have a question to ask Pastor Daron or have any questions for any of the Radio Theology cast, just email us at Daron, Ryan, or Lisa at blackbirdmission.com. And be sure to share this episode with a friend who could use a little encouragement. Talk to you next week right here on Behind the Mic.